Blue-collar, back-breaking, grueling manual labor. 47 million people in the U.S. alone work these jobs. I work in the arts, and today, I try manual labor. By the end of this video, I'll either prove that these jobs are easier than they look or completely embarrass myself trying. But first, I need to tell you about a phone call that changed everything. This is my friend Chris. He owns a construction company in St. Paul, Minnesota. Yesterday, I got a call from him asking if I was free to help him out. He'd pay me. I said yes, because, again, I work in the arts. And this brings us to today. I'm up 2 hours before usual. Chris asked me to meet him at his house, so here I am. But Chris is nowhere to be seen. Where is he? After looking around for a minute, my man Arturo pulled up in a shop van.
Hi, Arturo.
Arturo tells me that Chris is out at a job site and wants us to move his patio furniture to the garage. Chris has a guy coming to work on his deck later, so it needs to be cleared off. I should have stretched this morning. I'm gonna give it 30 minutes before I pull something. Regrettably, I didn't get this on camera, but when I picked up one of the benches, it was full of water and it peed on me. So after an hour of moving patio furniture and logs, nothing is pulled, but I have sore muscles and a wet shoe. Arturo and I finish up at Chris's house. Everybody say bye, Arturo.
Till we meet again.
We locked up the house and I called Chris to see what to do next.
Chris told me to meet him at the wallpaper job. Is this for a client?
I've never wallpapered before. The job was an entire hour away, so I had plenty of time to freak out about how I didn't watch any YouTube tutorials on wallpapering, and now I'm gonna ruin some random stranger's walls, and then they're gonna sue me for negligence. I'm in the parking lot now. It's 8:15. The building unlocks in 15 minutes. There he is! He shows me around the job site. He did this portion of the wall by himself yesterday and decided that an extra set of hands would really help. But here's the problem. I have to leave at 12:30 for another gig. That only leaves 4 hours for Chris to A, teach me wallpaper, and B, for the two of us to do this entire section of the room. It took Chris alone 4 hours to do this small wall yesterday, so time is a big issue here.
The clock is ticking. Can we get it done in 4 hours?
No time to lose. I jumped right into prep work while Chris got started on taking measurements. I grabbed a slab of wood from the van to set up our workstation. We don't want to cut directly on their tables. Next, I started removing outlet and switch covers. Chris was still taking measurements, so I replaced all the blades in his knife collection as well and sharpened his pencils. After I finished with the small prep, Chris explained that because the client is renting the space, they wanted something reversible for when their lease is up. So we're going with peel and stick wallpaper. Immediately, that's a huge sigh of relief. I was thinking about the old school wallpaper that you could mess up just by looking at it wrong. One of the first things I noticed when we started was that Chris moves with confidence. He started this company in 1987, and he's been getting his hands dirty in the front lines the entire time. His hands moved with purpose. His paint-soaked hoodie worn with years of experience. Chris seemed to know exactly what needed to happen next without even thinking about it. Meanwhile, I look like this. I think Chris could sense my fears. So, putting my fears to rest, he told me that he really only needed an extra set of hands to hold up the wallpaper, and he would do most of the work. I got so caught up in overthinking that I forgot. Chris has been doing this for 37 years. He's not gonna let me do bad work. He's not gonna put bad work in front of a client. Of course it's gonna be fine. So, since he just wants me to be an extra set of hands, that sounds perfect to me. Let the master do his work, and I don't get sued by the client. But what about my character development? I had just spent a troubled hour in the car spiraling about ruining someone's walls, yes. But I was also excited.
We'll see how it goes.
Hopeful that I could learn a new skill. Novel experiences can make it feel like time slows down and make us treasure life more. So knowing this, I stepped outside of my comfort zone despite all my fears and asked Chris if he could teach me. I knew we had the time crunch. I didn't want to slow us down. And I also didn't want to get sued by this client. But I knew that Chris strove for excellence, and he wouldn't let me do anything less. So he taught. He started small. How to measure when you get to a corner, how to use a laser level to line up the strips, especially when you have crooked walls like we did. How to use a smoothie tool to press the bubbles out from the side. It was kind of like putting a screen protector on a phone. I blinked, and an hour had passed. I was still learning, but we needed to start working separately if we were going to get this done on time. After careful examination of my work, he said I was ready. I didn't feel it, but knowing he put his trust in me was the boost of confidence I needed. First strip, crooked. Second strip, air bubbles everywhere. Third strip, I got it stuck to itself. But Chris never got frustrated with me. He'd just calmly peel it back off and say, let's try that again. I began to think of all of the employees that Chris has trained in the last 37 years. 2 hours in, I was just starting to get a feel for the way that the wallpaper moved, how to get it aligned just right so it's not crooked anywhere from top to bottom. And this time taught me something about blue-collar work that nobody talks about. It's not just about muscle and sweat, though I do have a lot of both of those things. It's about precision, problem solving, and adapting on the fly. Every wall is different, every corner presents a new challenge, and I'm sure the same is true for every blue-collar job. Just like we were transforming the room, I too slowly transformed from just being an extra set of hands to even taking charge on some of the strips. Another hour in and we were doing really well, but we needed to hurry. We didn't have time to think about our backs and shoulders hurting from bending over and reaching up. Again, I really should have stretched this morning. We only had 1 hour left and still had the rest of this wall to do. At some point, we decided that Chris can wallpaper around the cabinets after I, Caleb Cabanis, left. He just needed me for the floor-to-ceiling areas where he couldn't reach on his own. All of a sudden, it was 12:15. 15 minutes until I had to leave. Chris got a phone call that he needed to take, so it was up to me. The phone call was only a minute. Chris is back! With disaster averted, we were able to hang those last few sheets, and the only thing left to do before I left was final cleanup. So enjoy these satisfying cuts. As I packed my things covered in wallpaper adhesive and floor dust, something in me had changed. I knew that this work would be physically demanding, and those hours hunched over were catching up to me. I just didn't expect it to be mentally draining as well. I only wallpapered for 4 hours, but my back ached and I was ready for a brain break. Chris didn't need my help for the section by the cabinets, so he thanked me for my help, and off I went. I felt accomplished, proud. The room looked great. I don't think we're at any risk of getting sued. But more than the room's transformation, the real transformation happened in me. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about the 47 million Americans and the countless globally who do this every single day. The plumbers who crawl under houses, the electricians working in tight spaces, the construction crews building our cities. They're not just moving their bodies, they're solving problems, creating solutions, and literally building the world around us. I work in the arts, and I always will. But today taught me that there's an art to every trade, and maybe society needs to start treating it that way. This video took me a staggering amount of time to make, and I hope that that effort shows through in the final product. If you enjoyed this video and want to see it maybe turn into a series someday, I'm just a team of one right now. I'd love to be able to afford an editor someday, so please consider supporting me on Patreon. And if you can't support financially, no problem. Please consider supporting the channel by watching this video, where I made my first invention.